Welcome back to Elevate with Emily, where we talk about things that can help us become better individuals and better partners in relationships. Today, I want to talk about 3 misconceptions of therapy. The first is that I'm the expert. Yes, as the therapist, I have years of schooling, education, training. However, when a client walks into my office, I'm literally meeting them for the first time. They are the expert in their life. They know much more about themselves and their life than I'm ever going to know about them. However, using a collaborative approach, right? Asking questions, getting to know that background, and then using the training, the models that I bring to the table, we can collectively move forward together. Why do I count this as a misconception? It's because a lot of clients walk into the first session expecting immediate relief or for their problems to be solved. Even after the second or third session, they're like, I'm not seeing progress, or it's so slow, this is never gonna work. A huge part of therapy is the therapist getting to know you. It's important that the therapist gets to know your background, what makes you tick, how you see the world, what you've already tried, what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past. I know personally, I don't like being told things I already know. If people sit there and assume I don't know anything and they're telling me things that I already know as if I were dumb, it kind of is really annoying, and I never want to do that to a client. And so I'm going to assess, what do you already know? Where are you at? Tell me about all of the contributing factors, right? So when you come in with one specific story or one specific problem, in order for that to make sense in the bigger context, the therapist needs to know you, and that takes time. As well as you're not going to solve 18 years of problems in 1 hour session, right? So keep in mind that a lot of these problems you're struggling with have been happening for years, and it is going to take time to solve them. And so have patience with yourself. The second misconception of therapy is that the therapist fixes or solves your problem. Say a mom brings in her teenage daughter to therapy and says, hey, my teenager has a lot of problems, so I didn't know what else to do. Here she is. Help her, fix her problems, solve her, whatever. I don't solve people's problems, right? I believe because people know themselves best, they're going to know how to solve their own problems. Yes, sometimes they need help and guidance to get there, hence why they're coming into therapy. But even if I do all in my power to give them all the knowledge and things that they need to know, it's still up to them to solve their own problems. I cannot force them to make changes. They have to make their own changes. When I'm meeting with a couple, I can give them all the tools. I can walk them through processes, try interventions, suggest things, but it's up to them to actually implement that, apply it to their life, and make those changes. So when you go to therapy, come prepared to do the work. You're going to have to make behavioral, mental, emotional changes. That's going to require energy, time, repetition, practice. It can be exhausting at times. You're having to unlearn bad habits or bad behaviors and then learn new behaviors or habits. And it takes so much more energy than you would think. And sometimes things get worse before they get better, right? You have a closet that's cluttered and dusty and messy, and you decide, all right, I'm gonna go in and get it cleaned by a professional, or I'm gonna clean this closet myself. And you have such a good goal. You want to declutter and organize this closet. And in the process, you have to take everything out and dust it off and clean. And before you know it, you have a huge mess around. And it can be disheartening and discouraging, like your problems are even worse than when you began. But with determination, diligence, and some patience and a lot of grace, you start to put those things back in the cupboard, throw out expired things, throw out things that you don't need anymore, and put things back together. And when you're done with that huge project, you're so glad you went through it. It's a much better result than you could have imagined. And it's worth it. In the moment, it was uncomfortable or painful. It took way longer than you wanted. It took so much time and energy, but the result was worth it. And then moving forward, you have that organized closet and it will help in every other aspect of your life. The third misconception about therapy is that therapists give advice. Something that you will occasionally hear me say if you come into therapy is, I don't give advice. I've had clients literally ask me, what should I do? They tell me the situation, they're like, what would you do? What should I do? What would be the best thing to do? And newsflash, this is your life. As a therapist, we don't tell you what to do. We don't push our beliefs or our viewpoints onto you. We help you discover what's best for you. In the Code of Ethics, it talks about how therapists simply help their clients recognize the consequences of their actions. So if they have a decision they need to make, we don't tell you which way to go in making that decision, but we help you see if you chose this way, here's the pros and cons, here's the consequences. This is what could go good, this is what could go bad. And if you chose this other way, same thing, here's some pros and cons. Here are some consequences that you can expect. And are you ready to handle those consequences? Can you deal with those outcomes? And as you explore that with the client, you can help shift their viewpoint and they will realize for themselves what approach is best for them. Because they, again, know themselves so much better than I'm ever going to know them. And ultimately, they are accountable for their own decisions. If they break the law, I'm not going to go to jail for them, right? If they break the law, their partner's not going to go to jail for them. They are responsible for what they do. And the same applies in therapy. So I'm not going to tell them what to do. That is not in my purview. That is not what a therapist does or should do. We simply are a sounding board, someone who's trained in human behavior, someone who has seen a lot of things, has practiced a lot of skills to be a very emotionally intelligent person, to be able to help you identify your emotions and describe them and explain them, help you to recognize patterns going on in your relationships. They help you see things in a different light, from a different perspective that you didn't know about before. And they also walk you through interactions. They make you apply it. So sometimes a therapist will have you interact with your family or your spouse and lead you down an experience. Thank you for watching my 3 myths about therapy. I hope that you found it enlightening and that you can take this knowledge with you into your first session with your therapist and throughout your whole journey together. Give yourself patience. Trust yourself to know the answers. As your therapist mentors, guides, helps, and collaborates, you will be empowered to make not only your own decision, but the best decision for you and for your family. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below. See you guys next time.